Good morning, everyone. Welcome to tea time. I have chamomile tea today, and Azula thinks it smells very interesting indeed. I have recently moved the mares up to my house, and all the boys are living down in the pastures for the summer. So we are here with Azul and Cleo. And today, for any of you who join me, I am going to talk a little bit about phobias. So, hey Cleo, how's my girl? Cleo and Azul, they're the two mares that are living at my house right now. And shortly we should have a mule and a donkey that's going to be joining them when I get back from Europe. But for now, it's just us three girls here. So it snowed this morning. And it doesn't snow in April very often here where I live. So I was really shocked. And it got me thinking about phobias. You see, something interesting about me is I'm really, really scared of snow. For no logical reason. Nothing bad has ever happened to me in the snow. I've been scared, there have been accidents. You know, I could name a lot of things, but nothing technically bad ever happened to me in the snow. So why do I have such a phobia about it? Why does it make me so anxious? Why do I feel sick when I see the snow? You know, that's a whole deep subject we don't have to get into, but the thing that it does for me is it gives me a lot of empathy for horses. Here it is, it's April, we've got the cherry trees blooming, it's really beautiful. Good morning, Sally. And yet, we also had a pretty good snowfall this morning. Thank goodness. It's turning to rain and most everything is melting. But, you know, the horses are a little bit on edge because this is unusual weather. Huh, Cleo? And I'm really on edge. And so I thought today would be a really good day to talk about phobias. I think the beautiful thing when we realize as humans that we have these issues also is it gives us empathy with the horses. We understand their point of view when they're afraid of something that's maybe never hurt them. So just because something has never hurt them doesn't mean that it's not frightening. All they have to have is some frightening past experience with it to then have that emotion re-triggered every time the same thing occurs. And this is really common. I think almost all of us who are alive have a phobia about something. Something that strikes an irrational fear or anxiety that doesn't make any sense. Even if you then go through it and you say, well, I could see why that occurred. You feel like, why can't I lose it? Why can't I get rid of it? Time has passed, I've grown, and yet they often linger. And that's very true for horses. So how do we deal with that? You know, the first thing that I will suggest is that you try really hard to set a horse's life up in a good way so that they carry as low a stress level as possible. So as many things as possible that they encounter get attached to good feelings, positive feelings. You know, I think the most important part of horse training is specifically what they don't learn, more importantly than what they do learn. You know, if they don't learn to be afraid of things, then that is really beneficial for the rest of their life. If they do learn about fear and chaos, that's going to sit with them. It's going to remain part of their character. Now, a big part of freedom-based training is we accept the horse for who they are. So Azul here is very worried. There's a big sigh. She lets go of her worry pretty quickly. Now she's going to play with my hat. Azul, just because you're gray like Ocasio doesn't mean you have to be just like him. Azul is not my horse. She belongs to a good friend of mine, but she is a lot of fun to spend time with. So talking about phobias, you know, horses have them, people have them. Something in our past got linked to an anxiety, a level of stress that felt unreasonable, and then it stays like that. So every time you encounter the same situation, you feel that level of anxiety again. Zul really would like to have a little chamomile tea here and join us for tea time, huh? So I'm going to go ahead and wander down to the hay hut, and I think the mares will come with me. One place this anxiety shows up a lot for horses is with food. I know a lot of horses who have high food anxiety. Like there will never be enough food, and they are not very rational about the way they eat. As I was saying, in freedom-based training, the first thing we do is you try and accept them for who they are. So if they have an issue, that is part of them. That's part of their character. We might be able to shape it and change it over time, but it's not something that we can just erase. It is part of their history. And so one of the things I do with my mares is I have this great big hay hut here, and you'll see that there's a lot of loose hay in there. And what I've found is if I put a lot of hay there and I shake it up and make it really loose and light and fluffy, Hansel, so it's all really easy to eat. They have nothing to pull against. There's no nets. What happens is they're really excited about it for a day or two. And then it's all a little bit too easy. It's all a little bit too accessible. It's there all the time. They don't have to worry, is it going away? They don't have to worry when the next feeding is. And I found that when it's really loose and fluffy and easy to eat, and they don't have to pull it out of a hay bag, they actually eat less. Because what I've done is I've attended to the anxiety around the lack of food. Now, my horses are a little bit on the fat side. I will admit that. I haven't completely sorted that out. But I am a little bit more... Azul's going to have a little roll in the mud here because that's fabulous when you're a gray horse. You have to get a little bit more black. Is that better, Azul? So, you know, this idea that phobias are part of who we are. They're part of our life experience. And when a horse is afraid of something, we have to acknowledge that as part of their character. It's going to give them a lot of empathy for others that have fears also. And I would say, does that feel better, Azul? I think Cleo and I have been standing around talking a little bit too much, and Azul would like it if we got moving a little bit more, but she seems to have worked that out herself. As you can see, she's quite a character. Huh. I know, it's wet, it snowed, it's raining, you rolled in the mud, and now you're going to have some chamomile tea with me. Yeah. So every horse is their own character. Every horse has their own, you know, set of experiences that has educated what they think of the world. And we have to first and foremost accept them from where they come from. Okay, so if they're concerned about something, we have to accept that as part of who they are. And then gently over time, we can shape the environment, shape their experiences, so they start to rewrite those files in their brain, and they start to make a new habitual pattern around that experience. But this takes time. In my experience, it takes time. Azul is enjoying my chamomile tea a lot. Yeah, Ritzy, she is pretty funny with her antics. She's pretty expressive. I really like having the horses that are a little bit younger around as part of the herd because they're not as settled, they're not as peaceful, and they give us a lot of grist for the mill, a lot to think about. That makes them sometimes a little bit harder to interact with, but that's part of who they are. And again, that's sort of what I keep coming back to in this talk, that every horse has a unique personality, and that is made up of all of their good experiences, all of their bad experiences, all of their associations they've built through their life. Now, when we encounter something that they've had a good experience with, they're going to be much easier to interact with. when we encounter something that they've had a bad experience with, they're going to be much more difficult to interact with because their defenses will be up. They will be more likely to go to fight or flight, and that is just the nature of the game. So, right now, as I'm talking to you guys, Azul is licking the chamomile taste from the outside of my teacup, and she's making funny faces, and it is quite amusing. That's part of her personality. I wouldn't want to change it. Now, over time, would I love it if that flare of fight there didn't come up quite so fast? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and walk past it, move around it. Not my issue, not my problem. That's hers to sort through. And she's going to go ahead and duck into the hay hut. Hey, Zilla. Let's see if we can see her. Nope, she's going to come find me. But anyway, whether your horse has a phobia about food, whether your horse has a phobia about plastic or wind or weather, phobias are part of who they are. And what we do as trainers, in my opinion, is we accept that, and then we go ahead and we work around it. So that means when they are in a fear state, we need to really measure how can we be successful on that particular day in that particular environment. And if we can't be successful, if our relationship doesn't feel safe, I think it's really important that you're just not in the space with the horse, that you stay outside the space. You can be busy outside the space, you can keep them company. You have to stay safe first. Azul is now pounding on the hay hut. And I think it's because she would like to put her feet inside and paw up all the hay, and she can't reach it. This is her first hay hut experience since she's moved to my house. So she's learning that you have to reach in with your nose, but you can't really reach it with your feet very well. So she might be a little frustrated about that for a bit. So I think ultimately the point that I wanted to make was that phobias take time to work through, to rewrite, to reorganize. And I think there is an upside to phobias, and that is that when you know what it's like to be afraid of something, you end up with a lot more empathy for somebody else who is afraid at times. And when you spend time with a friend who is afraid, and you know what that feels like, you become a good problem solver for how do I set this situation up differently? How do I give this horse the skills or the strength to change focus, to think about something that brings them comfort instead of thinking about something that brings them concern? And how do I help them get so good at developing comfort in their life that they can handle any external circumstance? And that's really what I want to study. It's not about negating the horse for who they are. It's not about trying to change them. It's about accepting them fully for who they are, and then really gently, over time, shaping that into a better and better version of themselves. So those are my thoughts for today. I'm going to leave you with that. If you have a horse that has a phobia, be curious about it. Be interested in it. Figure out when it comes up, why it comes up. How do you change things so they start to build better associations in that situation? But don't try and erase it. It's part of their personality. It's part of what made them who they are. Embrace it and then slowly let it shift into something that's better. Those are my thoughts. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you next Tuesday. I'll still be home next Tuesday. After next Tuesday, I will be in Europe for a couple of weeks, but we will have one more tea time from San Juan Island next week. Hope you guys have a wonderful day.